Okay, well, g'day. Let's install one of these Aussie Traveller RV doors. This demonstration I'm going to show you here is to fit to a StyroMAX panel. This process is the same for this type of caravan door, or it can be the same for the teardrop door, and in some respects the motorhome door as well. Okay, so what are you going to need? Well, first things first, you're going to need a door. If you haven't done already, download our adhesive consumption guide. You'll be needing that. You'll need a roll of our styro tape from Henkel. You'll need a tin of VR10 from Terracin, of course Terracin MS939, a styro gun A, a pneumatic sausage gun, or you can use the mechanical ones that we offer, but I like to spoil myself and use the air one. I think the air one's better because it provides more even coverage of the adhesive onto what you want to apply it to. Okay, first things first, when bonding, you got to make sure that both surfaces are clean and dry. So what we'll do, we'll clean first. So we'll get a white rag and we'll get our tin of VR10. We'll apply some VR10 to the rag and we'll just wipe it around the bonding surface. Okay, now I strongly advise using a white rag when you're applying any sort of chemical to the panel, just so you don't get any dye run from the rag. So if it's white, you'd have less chance of seeing that. Okay, now this VR10 is styrene safe, so I think I'll put a whole pile on here. I'll actually rub it on the foam. There you go. So it's just cleaning that foam up. Unlike if you use something like acetone, that would start to eat the styrene away. So I wouldn't suggest using acetone, although the VR10 from Terracin is completely safe. Okay, look, what we'll do first is always do a dry run when you're fitting something to a panel, be it a door, or a window, or a hatch. Not so much the windows, but anything that's glued in, always do a dry run first, just in case there's any problems. You don't want to strike those with glue on your product going off. So we're going to do a dry run inside here. We've cut this panel appropriately for the size door. I'll just give a tip, is just to make sure that any of your steel work or your flooring, just make sure for these typical 622 wide doors, as you make this gap 624. So give yourself 2 mil on the width and 2 mil on the height if you're designing, just to give the door a bit of a snug fit, but a bit of clearance as well. So the last thing you want to do is press these door panels in where it's tight, and what it tends to do is it can squeeze the door frame up and then make the frame tight, and then it makes the door difficult to open and close. Okay, so we haven't got the adhesive on there yet, so I just want to do a dry fit just to make sure this door does go in and we're not going to have any nasty problems. Okay, there we go, that one's in. Alright, so we'll take that back out and we'll apply our adhesive. Okay, next step, we're going to apply the adhesive to the door. So I've got our trusty consumption chart from the website, and it says doors 7 mil. So what we're going to do is apply a 7 mil diameter bead of adhesive to the surface here of the door. We're going to apply that all the way around the door. Okay, so first up we'll just apply some to a bit of scrap to see that our diameter is right, and adjust the flow if we need to. Okay, so we've got our adhesive applied, about a 6 or a 7mm bead. So now it's time to place the door into the cavity. Like so. Now again, you shouldn't need to force it. It should fit in there lovely. And we'll just apply some styro tape across the door to hold it up against the panel while the adhesive cures. This is all you need, just some gentle pressure. You can see some of the adhesive is starting to ooze out the side. So my tip there is to leave that until 12 hours time, and we can very carefully knife that off before we finish fillet around the outside. Okay, so there you have it. I'd leave that for about 12 hours. Let the adhesive cure, and then we'll come back to that and we'll finish that off. Okay guys, day after the adhesive has cured, so we'll take the tape off and we can open the door. Alright, so we'll open the door. Could be a bit jerky the first time you open it, because inside there is the rubber spaces that space the door square from production come out to greet you. So from that point you can then, there we go, that shuts quite nice. So what we've ended up with is some adhesive that's oozed out the side from when we've pushed the door in, so we'll trim that off. And to trim that off we'll use one of these King Chrome scrapers. They work quite well. And also a Stanley knife, sharp. Alright, so you can gently just pierce into the adhesive. And just working your way around the door wherever the adhesive has squeezed out. Of course this all depends on how much you put on, but once it's cured it is quite easy to remove. So what we'll do after this step is just fillet finish around the join. Alright, next up, before we add our terracin, we'll give the surfaces a wipe down with the VR10. Okay, now I've swapped to a small diameter tip. Let's do a couple of test passes to adjust my flow. Once again, we'll blend that fillet in. Alright, so now we'll open the door and we'll work on the inside. Okay, so moving inside the van now, looking at the entry door, we've applied the terracin sealant to the joint from the inside, same as what we did on the outside, so that gives it a nice fitted finish. What you can get is this rubber seal that comes with the older type doors, but I believe is an optional extra for the new style door, and it actually clips inside the extrusion. So you can have a rubber seal It's not so much a seal, it's more of a dress ring, I suppose, around the door if you prefer, or you can just live with the white sealant fillet. With the older type doors, they don't have this cam keeper, so to speak, so this can be one piece all the way around, but with these new type doors, they got this pretty good cam lock idea, so you'll have to cut the seal and stop it and start it, but that'll just be a personal preference, I guess. Okay, so we'll close this door, and what we want to do is sort of take note of how the strikers or the pins come into the keeper, and as you operate or close the door, you just want to see how well these pins come down into the keeper and see if there's any adjustments that need to be made. And it probably wouldn't hurt to put a bit of dry lube on the pin and into the track. If you need to adjust these keepers, there's 3 screws here that you'd undo. Right, that'll give you up and down adjustment, and then the screw at the top and the screw at the bottom will give you some in and out adjustment. But what I've seen from these doors from the factory, they come pretty well plug and play, so I personally haven't had to adjust one yet. Okay, so finally we've got the door shut. What we need to do now is cover the catch mechanism. So Aussie Traveller has some plastic covers that will cover this. If you happen to have a partition wall or a cupboard or something that's very close by and you can't run past the door for that very reason, they also have these that are cut off, so they can come up against a cupboard or a partition wall. Okay, so fitting these plastic covers, you're just loosening the 2 screws to the outside slightly, and you just slide the plastic cover underneath the screw heads, push it till it's home, and then just gently do the screw up. So yeah, when you install the rubber extrusion, they can sometimes sit quite weird. But an old trick from the transport refrigeration game is you heat them with a heat gun, or you could even use a good wife's hairdryer. But you don't want to add too much heat. It's not good for the rubber, and it won't be good for the composite panel either. Okay, so finally that's it. We're all assembled. There you have it, quite an attractive looking door. All we have left in the bag really is the 2 keys, and of course the catch latch. So you would screw that to your wall in the appropriate position. I won't do it to this one, but just a couple of self-tapping screws. I'd probably apply a little bit of Terrace and MS939 to that as well. And that's it, your ARTV door is installed.